Do not fear death, for it is the ultimate journey, a necessary step to new life. Convergence awaits. Let's go and be made one. We aren't saying this. The world-destroying sinister extra-terrestrial markers are. This very message is secretly embedded in the markers' symbols. And flourishing civilizations across universes don't even realize that they're being pushed towards extinction by these aliens and their messages before it's too late. Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we'll introduce you to the evil aliens from the Dead Space gaming franchise, who have a unique propagation system and are master deceivers. They have the power to alter tissues on a cellular level and can also mess with your minds. Want to know more about these mystical markers? Put on your spacesuits and let's begin this interstellar journey. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What are the markers in Dead Space? The Dead Space gaming franchise introduced a unique set of extraterrestrial antagonists called the Markers. Their appearance is unlike any other alien being that's featured in movies or games or any pop culture references. The Markers are intertwined double helix-shaped obelisks whose main purpose is to transmit a deadly electromagnetic signal across universes and transform living and dead things into the undead. They emit an ominous glow and are shaped like strands of DNA, which echoes their purpose of destroying all living beings and converting them into necromorphs. These necromorphs then eventually bring about a world-changing catastrophe called the Convergence Event, which leads to the birth of the Brethren Moon aliens, the overarching baddies of the Dead Space franchise. A close-up of the markers' helixes show that they are engraved with cryptic symbols, which is the language of this alien species. The markers can be categorized as red and black ones. The black ones are created on alien planets via extraplanetary sources, and they travel through space, impacting civilizations on various planets. The red markers are duplicates of the black ones and are generated by intelligent civilizations through replication of the black ones. They both serve the same purpose of receiving and transmitting the signals that affect life forms across planets. The only difference between the two is that the red markers have a slightly different way of carrying out the convergence event. They require their markers to be dead and absorb their bodies to complete the event. What is the signal and what does it do? The signal is the main form of communication between the markers across all stages of their life cycle. These are concentrated electromagnetic waves that are believed to be transmitted by the Brethren Moons. The ultimate purpose of these powerful electromagnetic waves is to convert the internal structure of dead things and impact the minds of the living. The signal, broadcast by the markers through pulses, contains the genetic code of the Necromorph infection that transforms all things into the monstrous undead necromorphs. The signal alters the genetic composition of deceased things. It's said that the master signals come from the Brethren Moons via carrier waves and are then retransmitted by the markers to spread the infection across civilizations and planets. These carrier waves further enable the markers to interact with each other across impossible distances. We say this because the red markers on the planet Aegis 7, Kremar, and Aspera, separated by thousands of light years of distance, were able to act as one. The signals emitted by the markers are so powerful that they interfere with advanced tech and cause a powerful blast during a marker's progression into the next stage of its life cycle. The potency of the signals depends on the size of the markers, but it can be increased by signal-enhancing pedestals or via beings, whose brains are extremely compatible with the signal. This energy signal is also said to be powerful enough to convert dormant species into sentient ones. How do the markers display intelligence? The markers aren't just the messengers of the Brethren Moons, but are intelligent beings, as they have the ability to manipulate and manage the signals through their pulse vectors depending on the messages they want to send. And this sentient ability is seen as a manifestation of the Brethren Moons' consciousness into the markers, sometimes even when the Brethren Moons are in hibernation. The consciousness of these intelligent beings are better perceived by living beings that are highly capable of receiving the marker signals, that is, beings that are compatible with the DNA-altering signals. These beings understand the marker signals better, and the markers too are capable of detecting these beings and take a unique interest in their brains for their ability to truly understand the markers and carry marker knowledge in their minds. The marker's intelligence is also exhibited by the fact that this alien species considers themselves as godlike beings and have great reverence for death, even though their ultimate goal is reproduction. The markers and the Brethren Moons regard their very existence as divine, and the Convergence Event as some sort of ascension. They celebrate death with chants, and their signals often contain religious messages about embracing death. What is marker-induced dementia and its purpose? The markers send signals to manipulate the living into killing themselves so that they can convert the corpses into the grotesque necromorphs. By sending out pulses, the markers can rewire the brains of the living and convert the dead into aggressive, deformed zombies. But how exactly do they do that? They do that by generating dementia in the minds of the victims. The markers can corrupt the central nervous system of individuals, causing dementia, as a result of which the individuals experience vivid hallucinations and visions of their loved ones. This dementia-induced hallucination often drives them to madness, turning the individuals suicidal or homicidal, thus creating fodder for the necromorphs. In a state of paranoia, when the infected individuals kill themselves, necromorphs are born from their corpses. But like we told you before, some individuals are highly compatible with the marker signals and can understand them, such as the in-game character Isaac Clarke, a former ship engineer. For people like him, dementia generates more intense hallucinations to imprint marker codes and blueprints into their brains. These are actually plans for replicating new markers, so that this alien species is spread everywhere, and unwittingly, these suitable individuals propagate these plans and create more markers. No wonder the markers are obsessed with tracking down these suitable hosts. How do markers create necromorphs? Necromorph creation is an interesting process. Previously, we mentioned that the markers cause dementia in living beings, and even pushed them into killing themselves. More and more corpses mean more bodies for necromorph creation. Once there are enough corpses, the marker sends out the genetic code of the necromorph infection into the environment through their pulses, and these signals alter the genetic construction of the deceased beings, alter their dead tissues, and turn them into necromorphs, which are reanimated corpses with the most grotesque mutations and the most aggressive nature. The necromorphs mutate by combining dead flesh into distorted formations. They attack anything living on sight, as their sole purpose is to spread the infection and create more mutated zombies. Behaviorally, they turn into bloodthirsty zombies who only want to hunt for more corpses and collect biomass for more necromorph creation. The markers can also initiate the creation of a unique creature known as the infector, which helps in spreading the infection faster by directly injecting the corpse's brains with necromorph biomatter. Once the necromorphs are created, their mutated cells are controlled by the marker's carrier waves. Without the signal, the necromorphs fail to be reanimated and are of no use. They degenerate and turn into a biomatter sludge of the original person's DNA. What is the dead space and its purpose? Here's the interesting story behind how the gaming franchise gets its name. The alien markers, while carrying out their evil plans, ensure that they are surrounded by a dead space around them that protects them from the necromorphs invading their space. Upon entering the dead space, the necromorphs are forced into dormancy. The purpose of this dead space is to protect the highly compatible living beings that the markers require for future use or to interpret their signals. Thus, the dead space shields the suitable hosts, which the marker has drawn to its base, from being attacked by the necromorphs. This way, the hosts are both protected and remain close to the marker so that they can infect their brains to carry out their actions. What is a hive mind in dead space? Like most predatory species, these extraterrestrial beings also have a hive mind tradition. In addition to creating the necromorphs, the markers also transmit a type of general set of instructions to the necromorph hordes through a larger, more powerful alien zombie known as the Nexus or the Hive Mind. These high-powered and formidable hive mind creatures receive the instruction signals from the markers, interpret them, and then telepathically broadcast them amongst the smaller necromorphs within the hordes. The most prominent examples of this are the Hive Mind on the planet Aegis 7 and the Nexus, which was a powerful Hive Mind form encountered by Isaac Clarke on the planet Tau Volantis. The Nexus forms were created by the corpses of the planet's natives, and like all Hive Minds, the Nexus forms served as the ground commanders that intercepted the instruction signals from the markers and transmitted them to the smaller swarms of Necromorphs. Isaac Clarke, on his mission to stop the markers, chanced upon several Nexus forms on Tau Volantis, but they were all in a frozen state. As part of his mission, Isaac had no choice but to interfere with the nerve clusters located within a Nexus Hive Mind's body, which irritated the being and caused it to thaw and activate. It instantly attacked all beings in the vicinity, but Isaac somehow managed to kill the monstrous thing. The Hive Minds are crustacean necromorphs in gigantic insect-like forms, kind of like mutated centipedes. The Nexus Hive Mind appeared as a deformed creature, formed by conjoining the remains of the extinct alien species from the planet Tau Volantis, with its head resembling the skulls of the alien skeletons. It looks like the same Nexus Necromorph form that was created on the planet Aegis 7, and hence is said to belong to the same subspecies. The Nexus has 4 spiky and clawed limbs, and a pair of blade-like arms, which are its primary attack weapons. Its bizarre head resembles that of a mantis, with 4 eyes and fleshy openings and a crowded forehead. The Nexus can unravel its mandibles vertically to reveal a menacing set of fangs. Just like the Hive Minds on Aegis 7, the Nexus forms too have a throbbing sac in their chest cavity. The spiky appendages originating from its back both act as protectors and as antennas that receive signals from the markers and brethren moons. The Nexus has a peculiar way of destroying its victims, either by smashing them or by sucking them inside, right down to the stomach, and then drowning them in an acidic liquid inside. These gargantuan creatures can also shoot red projectiles, which explode upon contact. And even when they don't burst, feeder necromorphs emerge from these pustules after a while and attack. Feeders are basically necromorphs created from human corpses. Just like the Aegis 7 Hive Mind, the Nexus Hive Mind's vulnerable points are the yellow pods around its mouth and abdomen. When these are destroyed, the Nexus goes into a frenzy for a few seconds and collapses dead. What is the true purpose of the markers? The whole point of the markers and their existence is to wipe out entire civilizations and replace them with their own species to become the ultimate dominant force in the galaxy. The markers start this process by identifying a suitable planet where they can survive, and then the black markers broadcast their signal, which appears as a limitless energy source to the native species. When the dormant species on the target planet discover this energy wave, they are secretly manipulated by the markers into replicating the black markers and creating the red markers. While the dormant species think that they are recreating energy sources, they're actually creating more markers and setting the base up for the necromorph infestation. Then the markers cause dementia and hallucinations in the living beings, driving them suicidal and creating more corpses. Next, they start the necromorph infection by sending out the signals that carry the gene-altering codes which are engraved on their very bodies, written in an alien language. When the corpses are reanimated into ghoulish, nightmarish creatures, the necromorphs, they further carry out the process of infecting other living beings as a chain reaction. What is a convergence event? After the necromorphs are done assembling biomass, they gather around the marker's base to initiate the convergence event. Bursts of energy are released, and the markers begin to draw all the necromorphs and the gathered biomass and fragments of the planet towards the stratosphere, creating a sludge of organic flesh and rocky components, which merge together to form a brethren moon. These spacefaring necromoons then devour all life forms on the planet before venturing into other worlds and continuing to grow in size. Once satiated with its interplanetary rampage, the blood moons join a mental network of its kin and enter a state of hibernation, but somehow still remain alert to the detection of new worlds to prey upon them. So the sole purpose of the markers is to ensure a convergence event takes place and the subsequent creation of a brethren moon. What happened to Tau Volantis? The Dead Space franchise is set centuries into the future, and by the year 2311, the planet Tau Volantis has become a frozen death world, where nothing can survive. But delving into the planet's history reveals that Tau Volantis was not always like this. It was a rich planet with a thriving civilization until 2 million years ago, when the people of the planet discovered a black marker. To the natives, the marker was a source of limitless energy, and they worshipped the double helix-shaped alien with utmost reverence, creating more and more red markers through replication to tap into its power. Dr. Earl Serrano, who led the research on Talantis, summed up the exact motive of the markers on the planet and said, "Allow a species to thrive until they are so many in number that they can no longer sustain themselves, then descend upon their worlds to feed." And as expected, the Talantis aliens were deceived and the markers spread the Necromorph infection, killing the natives and turning them into mutated monsters. And as more and more dead aliens were reanimated, it led to a Convergence Event and the rise of a Necromoon. Meanwhile, some of the aliens who were still alive realized their species was going to be extinct soon, so they created a machine to freeze the planet and the Necromoon along with it. They wanted to crash the Necromoon against the planet's surface, as the natives wanted to prevent the moon from connecting with the larger network and its kin. But before that could happen, the Talantis aliens died out, probably because of the extreme environment, or because they couldn't repopulate fast enough as the Necromorph infection continued to spread. However, the frozen moon remained in the planet's orbit, fully aware of what the Talantis natives had done to the planet. Even though frozen, it continued to send signals across galaxies through the markers, hoping that someday it would be found by its kin and the machine would be turned off and its ascension would be complete again. How did humans discover the first marker? It all began somewhat 66 to 65 million years ago, when dinosaurs were roaming the Earth till a black marker crashed into the Gulf of Mexico, wiping out the prehistoric creatures and influencing the birth of humans. That's why it's said in the franchise that human DNA is touched by the black marker and it is now our sacred inheritance. Years and years later, all the way in the year 2214, the black marker was discovered as a relic by a research team, led by scientist Michael Altman in the Yucatan Peninsula of the Gulf of Mexico. The relic was believed to be a limitless source of energy that the researchers wanted to harvest further, but soon it revealed its ability to create necromorphs, and the whole discovery was buried as a government cover-up. But a secret government team continued the research, and eventually the Sovereign Colonies Administration decided to carry out the dangerous experiments away from Earth and in space. Later, the sovereign colonies decided to use the black marker to settle the energy crisis on Earth, and created several red markers by the year 2290, and placed them on classified planets such as Cremar, Aegis 7, and Aspera. But just like they feared would happen on Earth, necromorph outbreaks broke out on the planets, and the facilities were forced to shut down. Sometime in the year 2311, the sovereign colonies and scientist Dr. Earl Serrano tracked the source of the energy emitted by the markers all the way to the planet Talantis, where they discovered thousands of the red markers that were frozen by the natives, and also realized that the Brethren moons were the source of the marker signals. Following this, the sovereign colonies decided to eliminate everyone involved in the mission and destroy the marker facilities on various planets to contain the discovery. In the present timeline of the franchise, several planets have been overpopulated by humans, leading to an energy crisis and requiring deep space mining for resources. During one such venture in 2508, a mining crew accidentally dug up the marker named 3A on the planet Aegis 7, and the ship USG Ishimura was sent to recover it. But a necromorph infection broke out before ship engineer Isaac Clarke could stop the markers, and the ship eventually crashed into the planet, destroying the marker. But back on Earth and its colonies, the governing body EarthGov initiated the marker program again to harvest more and more energy, and irked the wrath of the radical group of Unitologists who consider EarthGov's experiments as a violation of nature. They released markers upon Earth's colonies, prompting Isaac Clarke to track the energy source of the markers all the way to Talantis. Clarke and his team completed the alien machine that froze the planet millions of years ago and destroyed the Necromoon in orbit. This alerted all the other Brethren moons, who then set their eyes on Earth to devour all its biomass. What are red markers, and how are they different? When exactly the OG marker came into being remains unknown within the Dead Space lore, but what is known is that for millions of years, many convergence events have happened in the Milky Way galaxy alone. So first came the black marker, and then, under its influence, intelligent civilizations were forced to create the red markers. Of course, the civilizations were completely unaware that the black markers are simply making the living beings create more and more red markers to bring about a convergence event. Of course, these planets and civilizations were actually targeted by Brethren Moons, who wanted to destroy their dormant species, and by the time the natives realized that, the red markers had already started spreading the Necromorph contagion and creating undead beings. To put it simply, the red markers are artificially engineered copies of the black markers, native to an environment. The sole purpose of the red markers is to generate more necromorphs and also to imprint the minds of suitable living hosts with marker replication instructions, as mentioned before. Functionally, a red marker operates similarly as its predecessors and can help black markers into initiating a convergence process. It can also complete a convergence event by devouring all biomass and bodies of a particular environment. Structurally, the red markers appear like entwined DNA strands, and they emit a menacing red glow. It's theorized that the red glow is because of the use of bismuth, a metal that sentient civilizations used to replicate the black markers. What is the connection between markers and unitology? Remember Michael Altman, the geophysicist who discovered a black marker for the very first time in the Gulf of Mexico in 2214? The discovery was buried in a government cover-up, followed by Altman's mysterious death after he went public with the findings. Altman's death gave him the status of a martyr, and he posthumously became the figurehead of a radical religion known as the Church of Unitology, founded in 2215. They remembered Michael Altman in their prayers. Praise Altman, chosen of the marker, architect of the church. For Altman is the way and the light. Through convergence, we all become one mind, one being, one flesh. Divine ascension awaits the faithful. Beyond the flesh and through the marker, Altman be praised. The Unitologists had great reverence for the markers and believed that humans were designed by the marker species, and after death, humans would be unified in heaven by the power of the sacred artifact, that is, the marker. Studying fragments of the marker, Unitologists believe that humans will be made whole in an event known as the Convergence. This religion is based on the black markers, particularly the one found in the Gulf of Mexico crater in 2214. Hence, the Unitologists' clothing and the church's architecture were inspired by the black marker's anatomy and the engravings on it. On a symbolic level, the church actually conveys a message of unity and points out glaring environmental concerns, such as the dangerous experiments carried out by EarthGov to harvest the marker's energies. Can a marker be destroyed? The Dead Space lore describes the marker aliens to be extremely influential and powerful, to the point of almost being indestructible. But certain instances across the franchise have shown that these sinister beings can indeed be brought down, such as when a marker wanted to absorb Isaac Clarke. He fought its influence off through a grueling mental battle and successfully destroyed the marker. In another instance, the markers were seen to be destroyed by extremely high temperatures, particularly when thrown inside a ship's reactor or a star. Further, the marker 3A shattered into fragments when a gigantic chunk of the planet Aegis 7, about the size of a continent, crashed into it. Marvelous verdict. So folks, these gigantic obelisks of alien origin undoubtedly take the center stage when it comes to the Dead Space storyline. These spiraling artifacts not only add an element of horror and mysticism to the franchise, but also gore and paranoia through its ability to spread the ghoulish infection. Do you think we too are being manipulated by a secret alien power that's waiting to strike at the opportune moment? At the opportune moment? That's some food for thought for sure. Don't forget to share your views in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.